Hi everyone, my name is Marcy Ravelli and I'm a speech therapist on the board of the Northwest Augmentative Communication Society, and tonight I'm presenting on my small ideas that make a big impact. I'm going to do a literacy case study, and then the two ideas are creating a custom Proloquo core template and creating a custom sound keyboard. The case study that I'm presenting on is Rowan. And for those of you who are watching in real time, let me know that you can see the slide that says Rowan on the top. No. Okay, I didn't think that was going to work. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to try one more thing. Oh, that didn't work. Open. One more time. Here we go. And start. Okay, can you see the full screen now? Awesome. Perfect. Okay, let's keep going. And can you see a slide that says Rowan? Yes, thank you. Okay, Rowan's demographics. He's a 5-year-old with developmental delay seizure disorder second to a genetic anomaly. He's in a developmental half-day preschool program and gets speech OT and PT in school and in the community. He's non-speaking. He primarily communicates by gestures and using his speech device with Proloquo to Go. He was using 45 layout at baseline. A little bit more about him. He loves movement and toys or activities that have motion or movement and sound associated with them. He also really loves social interaction, especially with his parents and in the context of book reading. So the problem that we were trying to solve was that family was interested in building communication, literacy, and kindergarten readiness skills, but any more structured tabletop activities where they tried to teach him these concepts or literacy concepts really just didn't hold his attention. So the first thing I did was really think about his learning profile, and that influences how I was going to solve the problem. I knew that he tended to rely pretty heavily on learned scripts, especially in shared reading with his parents. So his parents would read a book that he liked, and then they would ask him a question, and then he would go and hit the answer. So it was very kind of scripted in that way, very heavily parent-led. He always tuned out or turned away when the fine motor demands were too high. He showed preferences for whole body movement, auditory stimuli, and social interaction. And I think probably he really had a preference for the feel of paper. He loved flipping the pages in the book, and sometimes he would rip the pages. So the first thing that we did is we used a few assessments. We used the Comprehensive Literacy for All framework, snapshot assessment, informal inventory of early literacy behaviors, and then the Foundation of Writing section of the Bridge Observational Portfolio Rating Scale. And the interventions that we did, which you'll see, we changed his Proloquo to Go layout. We introduced more opportunities to interact with a variety of books, letters, and letter sounds, and then more opportunities for self-directed reading and writing. So here's the Comprehensive Literacy for All framework. And for Rowan, we ask the following questions. Can he identify most of the letters of the alphabet most of the time? And the answer was no, he can do some of them. Is he engaged and interact during shared reading? Yes, 100%, loved it. Does he have a means of communication and interaction? Yeah, he did. He does, more at the kind of scripted single word level. Does he understand that print has meaning? And the answer to that was no. So no to one or more of those questions means that he is a daily emergent interventions kind of kid. And we were focused on shared reading, shared writing, alphabet, and phonologic awareness. independent writing, access to an alphabet, self-directed reading, and of course, continuing his language and AAC skills. So this is the snapshot assessment, and for those of you who have never seen it, there is a link that you can click on. You can go back and click on it. You can also just Google this because there's a couple of different ways to access this assessment, and it's really neat. This is the scoring page, but um, pardon me for being old school, you have a checklist of these different sections down here at the bottom: motivation, support for interactions, print concepts, and so forth. And you just assess, talk with family or teachers, and probe and do dynamic assessment to figure out what skills they're able to do in each of these buckets. And so for this child, his motivation for reading and for literacy is super high. That was his strength. Support for interactions, um, also really high. His parents were very engaging and very supportive when it comes to literacy experiences. Following that is his print concepts, his sight word recognition, his phonologic awareness and decoding, and then finally, a relative strength, his comprehension was a little bit higher than some of these other skills. So when you add all of that up, he comes out to be a total of 36, and 36 places him what they call later emergent for reading. And then, so you can then go in this to a section that says focus of instruction. And how do you want to focus your instruction? So they have the early emergent, later emergent, and transitional. So in my scoring, he was later emergent, but I was able to then go and pick goals in each of these categories that would help him gain some skills. So for motivation and interest in reading, we gave him the goal of increasing a variety of texts and books and in electronic formats. We introduced him to ebooks and nonfiction, which at baseline he hated. He wanted nothing to do with it. For literacy interactions and support from the literacy partner, we have the goal of both initiating and responding over several turns because the interactions were very heavily parent-led. So to address that, we used parent coaching, just helping them use more time delay and more high affect waiting for him to initiate more than them leading. For print awareness, we wanted him to really tune into print. We wanted him to pay attention to both pictures and the words on the page. And to do this goal, we had the parents model pointing to both the pictures and the text. They were pointing to the words, they were pointing to letters. And then over time, they did provide him with some physical support to break the pattern of rapid page turning because he just had kind of this motor plan of let's keep going, let's turn the page. And so they would be really silly about it. They would hold his hand and they would say, wait, 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 I'm not finished reading yet. Let me show you where I am. And they would put out their hand and he would put his hand in their hand and then they would say, we're right here, we're reading right here. And then they would continue to read. For the goal of symbol, letter, and sight word knowledge, we wanted him to have the goal of consistently recognizing, labeling, and using symbols. This really pertains to his proloquo, but also in books. And then we also had just learning to recognize and name alphabet letters. And what we did to address this goal was to change his proloquo to go from the 45 that he was using to 77. And then we gave him a custom core vocabulary, which I'll show you. And then we also got rid of some of the picture symbols in the custom core vocabulary just to support his sight word recognition. Also, we started introducing more toys into the home that have sound and movement that are letter-based, like leapfrog learning, the alphabet bus, I have set in my mind to try Chameleon Reader because I know that Cass Griffin Bennett has cheerleaded that, and I'm really excited to try that with him. Um, Goals for decoding, just understanding that sounds in words are expressed by letters, um, making some letter sound connections. So we're doing this through two ways. The parents are modeling, I'm looking for the letter G, g, g. And then also we made this sound keyboard. The snapshot assessment doesn't really target writing, and so the other thing that we did is a similar checklist. It has reading parts, but it also has a writing kind of a rubric. And so we used the Bridges writing rubric to try to get some goals for writing. So here is the Proloquo to Go 77 with custom core template. And this is just a page that I screenshot from his um, page set. And you can see that the core vocabulary is all this uh, starting with I in the top left, going all the way down to my, all the pink to drink, back up the green, and then down the blue where good and bad. And on the bottom, you can see that that's the template. Now I think, let me just see. Oh, that's how you do it, but I want to explain why we did this in Proloquo to Go, and in the 45, the parents were having a real difficult time modeling a variety of words and also putting words into simple phrases, 2 and 3 word phrases and sentences. And so bumping him up to 77 obviously gave more vocabulary on the screen, but that still didn't solve the problem of in Proloquo, the templates change. Every time you change a page, you may or may not have the same exact core words on every page. And this is a non-English speaking family, and so I think this was particularly confusing for them. They would have a word in their head, like the word give, and then they would, go to a page and then the word give would disappear. So we decided that we're going to create this core template, and then we added the core template to every single page in Proloquo manually one by one, which took quite some time. But lo and behold, the parents were able to model. The child is starting to use way more core vocabulary than they ever did because they're now seeing this giant block of core words, and it's not changing, it's static. Oh, and one other thing about Proloquo, you'll also see on this core board that we have ing. And the reason we did that was because in Proloquo, and I'd be curious to have a discussion about this, you can turn on grammar endings, but you can't really isolate the specific endings that you want. You can't have just ing and plural s, for example. You can turn as many off as you want, but then you still get that pop-up in Proloquo, and my child's not reading. And so having this teeny tiny pop-up with like 6 options wasn't helpful for him. And so we opted to turn all of that grammar pop-up stuff off and just put ing in there. And yeah, you get a space after you say put space ing, but actually when it reads it, it does read it as pudding. That's not really a word. Uh, Giving. So, and how we did that is this is a screenshot on the left of opening up the settings and going to your vocabulary and then going to templates and edit templates. And if you could edit an existing template, or you could actually add a template. And so we added a template and then we proceeded to fill out all of this core vocabulary and we gave it a name. And so it's the user, it's here under user and core vocabulary. And then how you add this is you go into the edit button and normally you would see, I hope you can see my little cursor here where it says button, you would see a way to program the picture and the label and the message. But if you click on folder, then you are able to see down here folder contents and template, and then you can select the user template, which is the core. And you do that for every single page. And then finally, the custom keyboard and soundboard. First off, Proloquo has this alphabetic keyboard up here on the top left. And so the first thing we did is we changed it so that it was a QWERTY keyboard, like you see here over on the top right. Anytime we pulled up either of these keyboards, the child hated them and just, oh no, I don't like this, I'm leaving. And so what we did was we added a sound keyboard. Now I have this little asterisk in the bottom that says, I can't take credit for this idea. And I'm actually, I'm remembering that I heard it through a PRC Saltillo vendor, but I could be wrong. So if anybody knows where this idea came from, just shout out because this was a game changer. What we did is we added in some pictures to the keyboard, and then we added those sounds like we were talking about earlier. So you go into edit, and then you're here and you have, I selected, I check marked my B, and then here it says B, but over here circled on the right, you can see that there's a microphone so that you can record a sound, or if you click on this plus symbol, then you get a list of sounds. And so I can potentially play them for you if my Proloquo comes up. Let's let's see if I can do that. So I have my Proloquo. I'm going to try to turn up my volume. He loved the word dangerous. I think that's in there. Where's my D?
Disastrous.
Oh, disastrous. He thought that word was hysterical.
Whoa. Incredible. Meow.
So because we did this, he now will go to the keyboard, he'll explore the different letters, and the other day, just last week, he started making patterns. So he would do whoa, meow, whoa, meow, whoa, meow, and then he would play it back and then he would giggle. Um, so those are my two examples of adaptations of Proloquo.